October 9th, 2019. I would like to call this evening's City Council meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have the roll call?
Councilmember Boff.
Here.
Councilmember Stimmel.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Strobehn.
Here.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Here.
Mayor Thornton.
Here. Thank you. Just a quick note here. Due to the length of the agenda and the executive session this evening, I'm moving item 1.8.1, an ordinance amending Title 18, the Development Code of the Center Municipal Code for Outdoor Lighting, to our next regular scheduled City Council meeting, which is October 23rd. So we won't be hearing that this evening. And the other thing I just want to point out to the council is we did change up the order of the agenda a little bit this evening, so it's not quite the same as we've done it in the past. So bear with me as I go through this the first time myself. Okay, next is the consent agenda. If there's no requests for any items to be removed, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So next we have I'll be reading a proclamation, and then we'll also be having a presentation this evening. So I'd like to go ahead and read this proclamation. And afterwards we will be having a presentation by the Pink Lemonade Project, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'll read the proclamation now. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2019. Whereas an estimated 270,000 cases of breast cancers will be diagnosed in 2019 alone, accounting for more than 30% of women's cancer diagnosis. And whereas breast cancer remains the second most likely cause of death for women in the United States, despite significant improvements in treatment and mortality rates. And whereas we recognize that all cases of breast cancer are emotionally and physically traumatic, no matter the outcome. And whereas October is nationally recognized as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and an annual campaign to raise awareness using pink ribbon imagery often offers support to all those courageously battling this disease and honor those lives lost to it. And whereas we applaud the efforts of the medical professionals and researchers working to find causes of and cure for deadly disease. And whereas the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we recognize the experiences of breast cancer survivors, those battling the disease, and their supporters and loved ones. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite all citizens to prevent breast cancer death through increased education and regular screening. Now, therefore, I, Greg Thornton, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of the Center, do hereby proclaim October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, adopted this 19th day of October 2019. And if I could please get a motion by the council to adopt this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. So now we'll be having a presentation. It will be by the Executive Director, Megan Andy, and board members Lee Rafferty and Dean Stingham.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for welcoming us tonight at your meeting. We are so grateful for your attention to this matter. Pink Lemonade Project does seek to serve everybody in this community affected by breast cancer, no matter where they are in their journey. And so we have a little show here that we're going to put on for you in just a minute. But I just want to say that your attention to this matter really benefits our entire community as a whole throughout Clark County and even into the Portland metro area. So thank you for your attention tonight. Now I turn it over to Lee Rafferty.
You're going to want one of these. I want to direct your attention to the graphic up here on your screen. We'd like to see every household have one of these pink cans. And why is that? It's because Waste Connections has been an amazing partner for breast cancer work throughout the United States. From the top down, one of their executives had a young sister who died of breast cancer, and right before she passed away, she made the request of her family, please get behind breast cancer organizations. And in Clark County, what that means is 100% of the cost of these bins is borne by Waste Connections. Everything that you're going to write a check if you decide to have one, and you'll get one that's the full size. I can only get this size in my car. So you'll get one that's the same size as a usual recycling bin, but every dollar you put into that will be invested in programs for, as Mayor Thornton said, when you get the diagnosis of breast cancer, it throws you and your whole family into an absolute turmoil. And Pink Lemonade Project has programming for husbands, for partners, for young survivors, for metastatic cancer patients, and all kinds of ways that we support them. Oh, here comes another board member. I'll tell you what, this is the only board I'm on now because it's the only thing I really care about anymore. I had breast cancer about a year ago, and I've seen what this organization does to support in practical ways. If Medicare or Medicaid or insurance won't support what a breast cancer patient needs, we step in. We kind of close that gap up. So if you want to encourage your neighbors to say, yes, I boldly support anything that's going to help a breast cancer patient, please purchase one of these cans. Now, there's also a competition between communities during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we're asking you to see if we can, what's your mascot at the Center High School? Wildcat? Okay, so we talked to paper makers. We've got the sputters that are working on theirs. But, okay, Wildcats, you need to get some community pride here and see how many we can put into your community. And we'll be just announcing which community did the best to turn their street clean. So, and my final comment, if you have a friend, a relative, someone that you know who's going through breast cancer, doesn't matter what age, or if you have a buddy whose wife has been diagnosed, please get a hold of the Pink Lemonade Project. That's what we do. We are that support system at every step, and we'd be happy to make a new friend. So, anyway, thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Let's get some pink cans on the street. Mayor, maybe get a photo real quick?
Absolutely.
There you go.
My card. Where's my info?
I told you you'd be in a shirt.
Yeah.
Throw it down there. I'm gonna have to do this.
You get over there? Okay.
Getting out of the way.
So, yeah, we're kind of trying quarters in there, but
There's room.
Which way are you rolling?
yeah, you want the entire council in the photo? Or? Maybe we just line up behind us. There we go. Yeah.
He's got authority.
Yeah?
He's got some authority, doesn't he? He speaks people with.
Oh, is that right?
That's all.
Come on, don't hide in the back, Tom.
Kind of. You go down over another notch. I can hide.
You can go down there.
Photo style. 1, 2, 3. Everyone look at the camera. Yay. One more. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for giving us your time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing, Susan?
I was expecting you. Thank you.
Good to see you. It's a long time.
Okay. So you want
Yeah, I'll take
proclamation?
that so that I can frame it. And we'll display them on the
If the city did this.
Oh, I gotta do it.
You're gonna do it? Oh.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have citizens' public comment. This is time allowed for citizens to make a public comment on items not on the agenda. If you wish to comment, please step up to the podium. If you give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Chris Martin, 903 East 7th Street. I'm here to talk to about two things: the fee schedule for public records requests that has been improperly implemented by the city, and the falsification of employee records by the city. At the last city council meeting, the finance manager mentioned that the city implemented a fee schedule for public records requests. This was not on the agenda, but was casually mentioned at the end of his staff report. In his response to the request, our public records request, the finance manager states that the city complies with RCW 4256-120, and as such are charging us $182.90 for our recent request. RCW 4256-120 2A states that agency charges for actual costs may only be imposed in accordance with the cost established and published by the agency pursuant to RCW 4256-070, Section 7. That same section, that reference section 120, Section 7, states that each agency may establish, maintain, and make available for public inspection and copying a statement of the actual cost that it charges for providing photocopies, electronically produced copies of public records, and a statement of the factors and manner used to determine the actual costs. And here's the good part. Any statement of costs may be adopted by an agency only after providing notice and public hearing, neither of which was done. If no notice or public hearing was provided for the statement of cost to be adopted, how can the city then enforce this policy? This is against RCW laws and as such should be removed until it can be properly implemented. Why was this hastily thrown together? Was it in retaliation for the public records requests that were submitted by my wife? Secondly, my wife requested her employee records, and there were 3 memorandums returned that documented the 2 apparent counseling sessions with her and also the events of July 5th, 2019. First of all, none of these documents were signed by anybody in the city, not my wife, not the finance manager, and not the mayor. For the document regarding July 5th, 2019, the memo is dated that same day. The second page has a date in the header of June 27th, 2019. He then references her timesheet report on the following page. That timesheet report has a date of 7/16/2019 at 12:45 p.m., which was 2 hours after her employment with the city ended. So that shows that this memo was not even written until after she was gone, most likely to bolster the city's case for letting her go. Again, something that was hastily thrown together. When does this corruption stop? At this point, they're not even trying to hide it. It is out in the open. Thank you. And I have some documentation I'll be passing out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Sosky. I'm with the Center United, and I'm not going to give your address because I'll admit I don't actually live in the city. But I'm,
Most of the time you do.
I'm here a lot because I volunteer a lot. The Center United is a community coalition, and one of the things that we're working on now is we're asking if the city would put in an addition of a building code that would have the ability to create a safer community in the center by making a policy that new developments put in one locking drawer, cabinet, or something into their buildings. The reason that we want to do this is we've come up with a campaign called Lock Save Lives. The ease of access is the #1 reason for youth to misuse drugs. And I think that we've looked at it and saw that it would cost, if I did it personally in my own house, it might cost me $5 to put this lock in. But to have a builder do it, it would cost maybe $2 at the most. The unintentional opioid ingestion by children, it would stop that. It would stop, kids coming into houses and, maybe grandma's house and taking some of her drugs and things like that. So we did present this to the Planning Commission last night, and we just wanted to let you be aware of that. And if you had any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them for you. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have more of your flyers?
I have flyers I'm going to pass out, absolutely. And I also have a list of statistics here that I could send you guys digitally. Would that help? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So here, let me give these to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, last evening you were at the Planning Commission,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
they
thanks,
were
Bruce.
receptive, and it'll be discussed further in the Planning Commission, as I understand it,
Yes.
or with the Planning Commission, and I appreciate you making this an issue, bringing more awareness to it, Chris, and I suspect that ultimately it will end up here at some point in time, so thank you very much.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Chris.
appreciate it.
Laura Martin, 901 East 7th Street. Mayor and council members, I'm speaking tonight to continue speaking on some of the key issues that still have not been addressed. Council, it's your job per the city's organization chart to investigate the citizens' mismanagement of funds and property. It is also the city clerk, mayor, and council's job to ensure all RCW laws and La Center Municipal Code is followed. This has not been happening. We continue to get public records requests that are breaking the laws. On top of what my husband had mentioned is we received a public records request that all the information on it, like I said, the text messages that you guys received or that I gave to Doug Boff, you guys never received them. What I was told by, I don't remember what council member, but that you guys can't get in and play issues, and that's why. It had to do with a minor in there. Those text messages had nothing to do with minors in there. Not one single message in that text message has to do with a minor. So that cannot be retracted per RCW laws. Again, breaking the law. I have not heard a word about any of the alarming information that I have found, as well as presented the evidence to council regarding the public records requests. I received an email from Councilmember Boff on September 20th, 2019, to let me know that legal would be getting a hold of me within 10 days because he couldn't get involved in employee issues. I do not hold that against you because, again, city clerk takes that, you don't see it. I know this. So nothing, I've not received anything from legal, haven't heard anything from Dan whatsoever on this regards. I have yet to receive a call from legal or any city management to sit down with me to go over my evidence. Why hasn't this happened yet? Why hasn't anybody heard my story? Why hasn't anybody seen the backup that I actually have? 3 minutes is not enough time to go over everything I have. So today I decided that I'm whistleblowing about the accounting, about everything. I'm done. At this point, the citizens need to know. I'm trying to figure out why citizens aren't knowing, and is it because it's a re-election year? I'm not really sure. But the citizens, per the organization chart, citizens, council, employees. It's mayor, employees, right? So I don't understand why this is happening. We have tons of employees that are fear of retaliation if they come forward because of what's happened to me, because of what's happened to other people, because consultants, for some reason, have some ridiculous amount of power over our actual staff, and that's ridiculous. It should not happen. Basically, people are asking me, why? Why do I keep doing this? Why am I keep coming? And I'm going to tell you it's because of my integrity. I'm going to tell my kids, if this happened to them, I would want them to go up the correct channels. I back up what I say, and I hope in those 7 months I showed that I backed up what I say. I never went against what I said. My story never changed. So I will keep it coming over because to me, I don't want another employee to go through what I went through. And so the fact that other employees are mayor is very concerning to me. At what point does council get involved when there's retaliation going on? In my firing meeting or separation meeting, I was told when I asked what this meeting was about, Ms. Corbin said, this meeting is going to determine whether you get approval for unemployment or not. Unacceptable, breaking the law. Then fighting unemployment. Then unemployment came back to me and said, can you send me your termination letter, which says at will, no cause. Then send that to them. And then they say, okay, well then your employer says that you're working overtime. Can you prove that you weren't? Why were they asking that? And if you did, why did you? Gave them all the information, and then next day, bam, employment approved because per RCW law, that was not a fireable offense. Then the story changed when we requested our file. I'm almost done. Requested our file, and all of a sudden, all these memos that weren't signed by the mayor, I wasn't signed, which I know you have to sign on written or counseling or anything like that to say that you approve it, that you agree or that you disagree. And a supervisor has to do that because then anybody could print off a memo and say, hey, you did this. No. Anything that I am bringing to council, I have backup. Backup. So until things start changing in the center, get used to this face. It will be here every single day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Sean Wright, 305 West 3rd Street. There was something interesting that I saw on Planning Commission last night, and I heard it would be brought up in today's agenda, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I wanted to mention it just in case, so that it could be brought up. It's about the critical areas ordinance update and regarding the base buffer width. So currently the code revision is separating low intensity, medium intensity, and high intensity uses and increasing the buffer accordingly for low intensity to high intensity. The Department of Ecology did put a comment that states in no case should a buffer width based on the habitat function of a wetland be reduced in exchange for reductions in water quality impacts from adjacent land uses, essentially saying that we should redact that language. And it seemed like there was a topic that had not yet been determined or resolved how to proceed. I would just like to provide my opinion that I agree with the Department of Ecology in that. The most recent ecological studies are showing that higher density developments are actually less impactful to the environment on a global scale per capita. So it seems silly to me to hold lower intensity development to a lower standard when it comes to impacts onto the critical areas. That's my perspective. I mean, for example, the more dense a society, the less generally people pollute. Torontons use 1/4 of the gasoline of Atlantans, and even Torontons use 5 times less as people who live in Hong Kong. So it's just an example of how density is correlated with environmental pollution. One quote that I think is particularly impactful is, "The critical energy drain in a typical American suburb is not the Hummer in the driveway, but rather everything the Hummer makes possible. Oversized houses, irrigated yards, networks of new feeder roads, residential streets, the costly and inefficient outward expansion of the power grid, duplicated stores and schools, and 2-hour solo commutes." I think it would be a shame to think that we have to protect these areas from high intensity developments that are already using LID strategies and now held to that standard, but not holding that to lower density development. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else like to comment this evening? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period, and we'll get on with the rest of the agenda. Thank you. Next, council and staff reports. I just have a couple quick things this evening. First of all, council, the city did receive a thank you card from the Our Days Committee, and I'll just read it here. It's kind of a short note, but we can never thank you enough for all your support across the whole the Center Our Days event. Thank you so much for all of your thoughtful help with making Our Days such a success. And it's signed the Center Our Days Committee. So I wanted to share that with the council, and I thought that was a great card to receive. And then just also, Clark County Fire Rescue is holding an open house this Saturday, October 12th, from 10 a.m. To 1 p.m. at Fire Station 21, located at 911 North 65th Avenue in Richfield. And they'll be demonstrating a residential fire sprinkler system. And I believe they're actually having a live demonstration of a fire taking place at 12 o'clock noon. So council members, if you'd like to attend, that'd be a great, I think that'd be a great event. So, yeah, that's going to be this Saturday, the 12th, at 12, starting at 10 a.m. So that's all two other things. Just these are for calendar, for meetings, council meetings in both November and December. So our second council meeting for November is scheduled right now for November 26th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. I'm going to pull up my calendar here real quick. So I'm going to propose to the council that we change that date to the week before the last, or the November, from the 27th to November 20th. Will that work for the council for the second meeting in November?
That's good.
So we'll have back-to-back meetings that month.
I'm good.
Okay, and then Christmas is on our regular schedule. The 25th of December is on the regular scheduled council day, so unless council wants to be here Christmas Day, we'll need to move that back to the 18th of December. So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, we'll just notice those accordingly then.
What were those dates, Mayor?
Okay, so the one in November will be moved to November 20th. And the second meeting in December will be December 18th.
I got a blazer box.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Okay,
No, it's good.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have this evening, council. Next is the attorney's report.
Just an update. I could probably attend meetings every 3 months, and you wouldn't kind of fall out of step with what's going on with the land use litigation. Court of Appeals member returned a decision in the city's favor. FutureWise and Friends of Clark County first requested reconsideration, but just on the issues that didn't affect you, and that was denied really quickly. And now they filed a request for Supreme Court review, which is discretionary. It's unlikely that the Supreme Court would take it, but just never know. And the Supreme Court should decide whether to accept the case or not within the next few months. So sometime this winter, we'll get word back on that.
Great.
Stand by. Any questions?
No, making a lot of progress at it, though.
Every day, progress, you're right.
Wow. Thank you. Council comments. Councilmember Boff.
Thank you, Mayor. Last evening, C-Tran Board of Directors held their monthly meeting. The meeting was held in the new admin building. That's been a project in process for some time. The new building's very nice. The actual council room is not quite finished. The board is waiting for delivery of audio and visual equipment, but we met in a large open common area last night. It was very nice. It was very nice to walk into the new building and walk into the lobby and to see the center's city flag on display along with the other cities in Clark County. So that was really gratifying. Biggest issue last night was the update on the Mill Plain bus rapid transit line. As I mentioned after the last meeting last month, the biggest issue is C-Trans plan to eliminate the two left turn lanes, westbound left turn Mill Plain Boulevard onto southbound Chocoloff, as some people say in those meetings. And two alternative plans have been proposed to the property owners and the business owners in the area. Unfortunately, and that's my opinion, the two alternative plans add much more delay time and queue time and travel time through that particular intersection. And I think the groups now are at loggerheads, so they continue to talk, but there are some major disagreements on how that rerouting will take place. The meeting concluded with an executive session, and the executive session topic was about the ownership and access to a small piece of property near the Turtle Place Transit Center. And after we came out of the meeting, out of the executive session, then the board did vote to authorize C-Trans attorney to accept the proposal that had been negotiated. So it was a rather short meeting from that standpoint. And that's all I've got.
Great, thank you very much. Great report. Councilmember Stimmel.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Strobehn.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to encourage everyone to take the Citizens United survey. It's online, it's quick, but it helps gather information on the local community as far as youth substance and addictions and things. So please just take a few moments and get that done.
Great, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have staff reports. First staff report this evening will be done by our Public Works Manager, Mr. Matt Jenkins.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens. Matt Jenkins, Public Works Manager. On the Public Works Operations side, staff was out street sweeping and crack sealing over the last week or so. They also did, on October 7th, they worked with the Clark County striping crew to restripe some of the lines throughout the city. They're continuing to monitor work on the roadways and potholes throughout the city, and they're also working on cleaning leaves and making sure storm drainage is clear now that fall's arrived, and increased flows with the rainwater. On the ground side, they're coming to the end of their continuous mowing schedule shortly for the parks and city landscapes in the area, but they still have a little more to go. They'll be focusing on fall pruning, and they've turned off the irrigation systems throughout the city and will be winterizing them in the coming weeks. On the equipment side, it's all currently operational. And as far as projects, they have received the bark and cedar chips for distribution throughout city properties, and they will be working on clearing drainage ditches in trouble areas, and they will be working to prep for the annual Christmas event, repairing decorations, lights, trees, etc. And then Public Works Management is working with Crane Osborne on a grant application for Stormwater Master Plan, illicit discharge detection and identification plan, and flow modeling of the storm system. The first draft of that grant has been completed, and we're going to be working with, it was Dave Mora, but unfortunately he had to go on leave, so we've got a new contact for a grant staffer with Department of Ecology that we'll be working on our first review with. And then on the wastewater operations side, all plant parameters are within permit limits. Both membranes are functioning well. Staff has reordered cleaning chemical to have on hand going into the wet season. They're currently taking inventory on lab and restocking supplies and assessing equipment for 2020. On the maintenance side, routine preventative maintenance is ongoing. Membrane blower number 2 was identified as needing overhaul. Staff identified failing internal oil seals during a preventative maintenance check. The failing parts were identified early enough that the blower was removed from service, preventing a catastrophic failure. To put that into perspective, a failure would cost us $30,000 instead of a $4,000 overhaul. So their checks are working, and they did a great job on that. On the admin and reporting side, the September discharge monitoring report has been submitted to Ecology. All gaps in 2016 biosolids documentation have been corrected and filed with Ecology. To elaborate a little bit on that, we have a new Ecology representative for biosolids. She's our permit coordinator, and there were some things that the previous coordinator didn't ask for that the current coordinator wanted to have on her files. So we just got that updated with her. On the project side, lift station 2 and 3, the PLCs and controls have been upgraded. That went really seamlessly. So we got rid of the old equipment that was installed back in 1995, well past its useful life for electronics. We're working towards efficiently moving into a standardization of our electronics at these lift stations. So potentially we'll be able to, if we get it done right, we'll be able to back up all 5 lift stations with one shelf spare of a PLC instead of having 3 different types. And TAG, which is the automation group, is currently outlining the plant and lift station radio upgrades in order to integrate the future lift stations that we're currently working on. Questions?
What is TAG again?
The automation group.
Automation.
They're our integrator.
Okay, thank you.
Any progress on the storm drains that are broken?
Yes, I know the lids and the hard parts have been ordered, so we're waiting on arrival of those, and then the Public Works crew is going to address those.
Thank you.
Who was the company that was striping?
That was Clark County.
That was county?
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped by the city hall and heard there were people that were impatient and just going around them and driving in the paint and calling up, complaining about paint getting on their cars. I hope that people had enough common sense and patience to sit behind and wait.
I was in a hurry.
Unfortunately, there was a few of those incidences. One that comes to mind was an officer was helping a citizen remove a cone from the front of their car, and a citizen behind the officer, since the officer didn't want to touch the wet paint, had stopped to help the car in the lane, and the citizen jumped around and crossed the yellow line and got paint all over a white vehicle. So there's only so much I can do about that, unfortunately.
So I just want to back up to the Public Works part of this. Melinda Masna is here this evening. Melinda is the chairperson for the Christmas Festival, and I just want to let the council know that we have had our initial meeting with the Christmas Festival Committee, and we'll be meeting again here later in the week with some of the folks at the school. And so we are moving forward with the Christmas Festival, and I'm looking forward to having another great event. So I appreciate you being here this evening, Melinda, and appreciate all that you do to help the city. It's just awesome.
Was there anything on the membranes that were being tested?
We just got the report back. I haven't finished looking at it. I'm going to speak with Kubota and
Cool.
look
Thanks.
at it. Yeah, that'll be on my next report.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Melinda, can you see me after the meeting?
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. So the next staff report we have this evening is from Chief Denny for the Police Department report.
Evening, Mayor, Council, Chief Denny, and the Center Police Department. For the month of September, the officers were active, as usual, for traffic-related incidents and trying to address school zone issues with the increased traffic flow that we've been having with the construction vehicles coming through town. It's been a little problematic, but they've been doing a great job. We had a single resident burglary, which is unusual for us during daylight hours. And jewelry was taken. Right now, that's under investigation, and we have no significant leads in it. Basically, most of my staff is here tonight, so just want to thank them for the work that they do. I mean, obviously, there's a lot going on in the community right now with the construction, and we're very fortunate to have the officers and staff that we have doing what they do and keeping the crime rate as low as it is. So having one-offs once in a while is, it shows the work that they're putting in. So just want to thank them for their efforts out there. as I wrote this report, Alice Peters had left employment with the city. She's obtained work with the Clark County Sheriff's Office, Clark County, and is doing well, but also we had a medical issue. So I wanted to address right now, because we're getting some complaints from citizens and from staff about the office. We're not responsive to calls and the office lobby being closed. People need to get used to calling 311 or 911 when we need something, because what happens is they call the office and they'll leave a voice message, and we don't respond directly to the voice messages right away, obviously, because we're out on the road or doing other things. So we need help in getting it out to the public, or have them, when they call City Hall or wherever else, call 311 so they can be dispatched appropriately through CRESA, and they can be logged, and that way we can get back to the people. And I mean, we get all kinds of calls coming in, leaving messages that we could have used the information if it was fresh, but weeks later when we get back to them, it's a little too late. So we just want to make sure people are aware that we are still functioning. We're 24/7. However, they need to get an officer. They need 311 or 911. Okay, and that's what we've been addressing with City Hall as well when they're taking calls when our office is closed, is to have people call 311 so we can get those calls out to the officers where it belongs. So if there's any questions on that.
Is the call box still on the outside of the police station for people that walk up to the front door?
It is, and it does go right to 911. It's, but again, our 911 center is our 311 center as well. So people, I don't know if they're reluctant to call using that box because they think it's just going right to the 911. But that's kind of the way they need to get a hold of an officer. If they go to the building and the door's closed, then they need to pick up the phone and call for service that way. Yeah. So.
Do you have meetings with CRESA?
Yeah.
I wanted to report a street sign down out in the county, and it was a pertinent sign. It was somebody out in Yakult decided to take out with a vehicle. The 311 phone tree is really long. Before you can do anything. I think I timed on my phone, it was 90 seconds before I had to listen through all the things they wanted to talk about. Just, if there was any way they could streamline that. It's not a big ask, but.
I'm sure they'd love to. They just don't have the staff like everyone else.
Yeah.
And their 911 operator is also their 311 operator.
Oh, sure. No, I wouldn't. Once you got past the menu, it was okay.
Yeah.
Then you got right through.
Right.
But it was just waiting. Do I want this one? I want that one.
Yeah.
For county roads. So anyway, just something.
I'll let them know, but they have text messaging and everything else now, so that they have to scour through all those different
that's true. I forgot about text.
modes of communication that are coming into the center. So the next page is basically the stats, which we present every month to show everybody what's going on. And as you can see, traffic is always our main, not because we want it, this is our main thing that's going on in the community. So traffic-related offenses and traffic emphasis going on, and as well as the premise checks that we do continuously. So.
That's an event counter. Do you have a pie chart that shows time?
Well,
Because I imagine you spend more time on traffic than you do checking houses.
Right. You want time as far as how many?
Well, just how time gets allocated, what the guys are up to. I know they're working.
Right.
But, I see their events, but is time proportional to the event count?
Yeah, that's a big list, and I can pull it up and generate.
I'm just curious.
But yes, there's they're going where they need to be at any given moment. So there's no question about that. But when they're not tied up on calls for service or doing patrol emphasis or premise checks, they are outrunning traffic as much as they possibly can. So
that's all good.
Yeah. Any questions?
Not sure you can say much about it, but that burglary that happened on a Monday, on a holiday, in the middle of the day. All they took was jewelry.
Yeah.
No car, nothing else. Was that
I heard you say there's no leads. Are they done investigating? Is that over with, or?
We're never done investigating until we get it solved, but at the end of the day, it's very unusual circumstances.
Kids were out. I mean,
Very
it's-
questionable occurrence of where it was located. So, yeah, we have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's my street too, so I'm concerned.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next we're going to have Janice Corbin, our HR consultant, will be
Set
giving.
that on the lower level. There you go. There.
My report will be brief, and it's not in writing. A couple of things. One, we do have interviews for Tuesday for the accountant vacancy. We have not done anything yet on the clerk 3 position that was vacant with Ms. Peters. I think we're going to reconfigure that position. That has to be talked about in the leadership and then also discussed with the union so that they have an opportunity to give their input to that. So that's one. We settled the collective bargaining agreement with the exempt employees. There's 2 people in that union, so we settled that contract. We met with the police union last week, I think it was last week, and we resolved the unfair labor practices, and I thank the police union for working through that with us. So we settled all of those. We got some changes in language and schedules, and I'm grateful that we got that done. We are moving forward with mediation with both of those unions, the civilian and sworn, and mediation is a continuation of negotiations. We have dates in November for that. And the primary issue, I think the civilian union, we agreed on a lot of language there. The primary issue is about wages, which we all expected. But, you know, I think that everybody's trying to work together to get that addressed at that time. That's the report. So nothing shocking.
Thank you. The next staff report we have is finance staff report, and Mr. Dustin Bailey will be presenting.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. You may have noticed this is not the normal week for a finance staff report, but I wanted to update the council on the our proposed schedule for the budget development process for this year. I presented the rough overview of the process a couple times now, but this is hard dates for the council to see. We have a budget advisory committee meeting scheduled for October 17th. City Council work session October 23rd, where we'll cover revenues and expenditures. Budget Advisory Committee meeting October 29th or 24th. Preliminary 2020 budget and budget message filed with the Council November 1, 2019. Publication of the preliminary 2020 budget November 4. Budget Advisory Committee November 5. City Council work session November 13. Public hearing, revenue sources, possible increases in property tax, November 13. Council work session, November 20. Copies of the 2020 preliminary budget available to the public, November 20. Public hearing on 2020 preliminary budget, November 20. Property tax levies set by ordinance, November 20. And public hearing on final 2020 budget, December 11. So you can see we have a busy couple months when it comes to the budget. So the mayor and I discussed putting hard dates in front of the council just so expectations are understood and you guys can plan accordingly. And again, here's our general overview budget process that I've shown you.
The council work sessions, hour for the regular meeting, is that what
Yes.
we're going to do? Okay, I just want to make sure I get them on the calendar.
And Dustin, I won't be at the next meeting, so can I get an emailed copy of what's being handed out?
Absolutely.
On that workshop?
Yeah, we'll make sure.
Thank you.
And if you need to conference call in, we can also facilitate that. I don't know if that's
I'll
possible.
be in the ocean, so
Okay.
probably not, yeah.
We'll make sure you get the documentation.
Please, thank you. Yeah, above the water, yeah.
Very good.
Any other
Any questions?
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. So, thanks for coming.
Very good.
Well, we have to wait around for a little bit.
So next on the agenda, we have a presentation by the finance manager, Dustin Bailey, and it's going to pertain to business licenses and business license revisions, business license index.
So I won't go through in a ton of detail on this report, but essentially what we've been working on for the past year is transitioning the business licensing process from the city to the state of Washington Department of Revenue. And the reason we're doing this change is the Department of Revenue is actually going to handle all the processing, all the paper processing, transaction processing, 100% free for the city. And that means they're just a pass-through, essentially removing a lot of that paperwork necessary within the city staff, sending reminders to business license holders, processing the paperwork, ensuring licensing requirements are met, those kind of items. And so in this staff report, we're proposing, well, actually, let me read this for you. Finance staff and the city attorney worked with the Department of Revenue to develop a revised Listener Municipal Code 55.05, and Ordinance 2019-21 adopts these LCMC modifications, codifying the required language to continue the transition process, so transitioning the processing to the state. There's not going to be a budget impact necessarily when it comes to expenditures, but there will be some efficiencies gained from not having the paper processed by the city staff. So we're recommending the council approve Ordinance 2019-21, amending LCMC 5.05, business license, codifying the language. Is there any questions?
So this will simplify the process for somebody who holds a business license in La Center, is that correct?
It would in a lot of ways. And a couple of the benefits that I've noted is that there are state license requirements. A lot of businesses operate in multiple cities that already use the same process. So really, a business could go onto the Department of Revenue website, get their business license for La Center, all the other cities that are in the same process, and then also do their state licensing. And there's definitely a lot of efficiency a business would gain from being able to do it from their office space and not having to come into the city or mail in paperwork and those kind of things.
Well, what compels them to do it if they're not a La Center business? So say a Woodland business, a contractor in Woodland comes into La Center to work, what makes him have a La Center business license?
It is in the La Center Municipal Code that you have to have a business license to operate a business within the city limits.
But we don't enforce that, so.
There is some enforceability, but yes, I would assume there are some businesses that are not complying with that requirement.
Yeah, it goes with the dog license thing. Okay, thanks.
The same in any city.
But it does make things a lot more efficient as a
Oh, no,
business
I
owner.
agree with that. I agree with that.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's
And,
so fast.
One other item of note is with the new City Hall facility, we did discuss putting a terminal in the customer service area. So if someone were to come in and want to file for a business license, they don't actually have to leave. They could use that terminal to apply for their license and process it through.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So Dustin, the process is, then the applicant will be applying on the state level electronically.
Mhm.
And then the state will come to us then to validate some information?
They do all the validation themselves.
So how do we know then that someone has applied for a business license?
We actually receive the application when it's finalized and paid for. We receive
So
the,
the state does notify us then?
yes, they will
Okay.
notify us, yes.
Okay.
Is that information on the state, on a state website that's
Yes.
public?
I believe that they're going to publish the business licenses on a
Will it
public
be like on
portal.
LNI or?
Similar.
Okay.
If you go into the DOL or whatever, you just type in and you'll be able to pull up the
Well, you
license
can,
once
you
it's been
can,
approved. yeah.
you can see, that they have a state license and their workers' comp is paid up and whatnot, but it doesn't list any city licenses at this time. 'Cause I was looking at a contract the other day, and it didn't list any of
We
his,
don't have a list today.
any city license.
Well, we do have there's going to be a back end to the portal for city staff to be able to log in and review all the businesses that have current licenses. So if it's not published on the public-facing side, we'll be able to access it on the back side.
It'd be nice if it was public, if we could put it, if it did end up with a public site, to put a link in our city website so people could verify if a contractor is licensed in the city. So I just thought, but anyway, no, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Mayor,
this is an
move to
ordinance
adopt ordinance
with a public hearing.
Oh, yes, thank you
Sorry
very
for
much.
interrupting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. So, thank you, Dustin. So at 7:25, I will open it up to the audience for anybody that would like to comment on this ordinance.
As a business owner, I just have to say that this is actually great, because going through the process individually is a nightmare, because you have to go through the state, you have to go through the city, you have to go through, I mean, there's just tons of channels. So this will make it much more efficient, and if, like what the finance manager said, if they're going to put a kiosk in, that'll be even better. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'd be nice.
My name is Curtis R. Carlson. I live at 35915 Northwest Jenny Creek Road, outside of town. It would seem to me like, because it's been a long time since I did a Department of Revenue B&O tax report, but the local, what will tell and how each city will have a locator code when you report to get your local taxes. So when the small business, that's how you'll know who's doing what where, Randy. You say, you've got a locator code. Because there's little nuanced differences in rates that are charged in different places for the retailer. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great,
Thanks.
Seeing no one else stepping up to the podium, I'll close public hearing and turn it back over to the council for any further discussion or comments.
It sounds like it brings us into the 21st century.
Yeah, no, it'll be a huge improvement.
Long overdue.
Now can I get a motion?
Okay, Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 2019-21, thereby amending the Center Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 5, Business Licenses, as outlined in Exhibit 1 of the ordinance.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 2019-21. Again, this is an ordinance, so if I get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Boff,
Yes.
Councilmember Stimmel,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn,
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Yes.
The ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you for the report, Dustin. Next on the agenda, we have another ordinance. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a 5-year franchise agreement with TDS Telecom, and this also will be presented by Mr. Dustin Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. If you look at the history of the center, you can see there's a long-standing tradition of having this contract in place, this franchise agreement with TDS Telecom, essentially allowing the use of city right-of-way to ensure that the telephone system is in place and available for city residents. So TDS came to the city and asked us to consider revisiting this contract for another 5 years. This last one was a 5-year. And so that's what's in front of the council today, is a proposal for an additional 5-year franchise agreement with TDS Telecom. There is no budget impact, and staff is recommending the city council approve and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
Do we know who owns the wire?
I don't have an answer to that
I don't
question.
have an answer. The reason I'm asking, you're kind of stepping into my realm, and I personally don't have a great history with TDS, and I deal with clients all over the nation. And I didn't know if we've actually looked out and seen around what else is available for us to talk, just kind of explore different options. That's the reason I'm asking, because this is stuff that I deal with on a daily basis. You'd be surprised how many other companies are out there, but it also depends on how many people or who owns the wire is going to be the big question. And if it isn't owned by TDS,
Yes.
it is all owned by TDS, so you do know that? that presents a problem for options.
Okay.
That kind of takes that equation, Ryan, out the window.
Okay, but thanks for bringing it up. Any other questions or comments? Okay, again, this is an ordinance, so I am going to open it up for public hearing at 7:30. If anyone would like to address the council, comment on this ordinance, please step up to the podium. If you give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing no one stepping up to the podium, I will close public comment and turn it back to council. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Now, I'd just like to see other options in the city, rather
Okay.
than just Comcast and TDS. It'd be kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
It looks pretty straightforward. Looks like we are protected very much with that. I'm comfortable with it.
Okay,
It's just for right-of-way access.
very good. Well, then could I get a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 2019-22 to enter into a 5-year non-exclusive franchise agreement with TDS Telecom and authorize the mayor to execute the franchise agreement with Lewis River Telephone Company, doing business as TDS Telecom, as presented in Exhibit 1 to the ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 2019-22. Again, this is an ordinance, so I could please get a roll call vote.
Councilmember Boff?
Yes.
Councilmember Stimmel?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn?
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny?
Abstain.
The ordinance carries by a vote of 4 to 1 abstention. So thank you, council. Thanks again for the report. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to move on to new business. This evening, we will have one item on the new business. It's a bid approval for a community center HVAC system, and Mr. Matt Jenkins will be presenting, and Finance Manager, Mr. Bailey.
Mayor, council, citizens. Staff's identified a need to install an HVAC system in the Holly Park Community Center within the 2019 budget cycle. The system will replace an aging, inefficient heating system, which is currently 2 resident natural gas heaters. In addition to that, the system will be adding air conditioning to the building for the warmer months of the year. Both features will benefit current users of the space and then hopefully increase the frequency of use with other groups within the community. The 3 bids, we received 3 bids, all slightly different, and the low bid was for all hours heating and cooling. And I'll point out that Blairco, who's our current service provider, their bid was $19,000, but that was without electrical work, hole patching, and sheetrock, whereas all hours is, if you look at the actual bid, it's all inclusive with a 10-year parts and 2-year labor warranty. There is a budget impact of $501.20 over what the capital project was budgeted for. That'll be included in Amendment 2 to the 2019 budget. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Is there enough power in that building to run an AC unit?
There is, yeah.
It'd be nice to get rid of those rattly heaters that are in there. They're horrible.
Yeah.
How old is the current system right now, Matt?
I believe 15, but I can get a definite number for you. I don't have one offhand.
It's horrible.
Might even be older than that. I think, yeah.
The warehouse heaters.
That's as far back as I've seen it.
What is the community center being used for at this point in time, for the most part?
Currently, we have Meals on Wheels, so the senior luncheon twice a week. I believe Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, are they still currently using it? And then we have many one-offs, rentals, or citizens using it for receptions, parties, things like that.
So it is getting used then?
Yeah.
Heavily.
There is a lot of use.
There's no air conditioning in there now?
There's no air conditioning in there now.
Will this eliminate the noisy blowers in there?
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It'll make it much better should we have to have a
Anyone
larger
who's
meeting in
hearing these
there.
will tell you how difficult it is to hear in there when those
You have to turn them on.
motors are running. Yeah.
And on a cold night, that's hard.
And I know with some of the meetings the Department of Ecology wanted to set up come wintertime, we didn't because they would kick on, and it is a distraction for presenters. That being said, there is enough power, they probably will have to add a breaker, but are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Mayor, I move to approve the selection of all hours heating and cooling for installation of HVAC at Holly Park Community Center and direct staff to proceed with the procurement in the amount of $15,501 and exactly 20 cents.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the selection of all hours heating and cooling for the installation of a HVAC system in Holly Park Community Center and direct staff to proceed with procurement in the amount of $15,501.20. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. It's going to be a huge improvement for our community center and community.
Those things are horrible in there. When they start up, it sounds like a plane.
So next on the agenda, the city council will be going into an executive session per RCW 42.30.140 to consult those authorized to negotiate labor contracts, to discuss labor contracts and negotiating strategy, and also for RCW 42.30-110 to consult with legal counsel threatening pending litigation or litigation to which the city is likely to become a party when disclosure of such matters likely to cause adverse legal or financial consequences to the city. So with that, I would like for everyone to please leave the chambers.